All right. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening to those joining us from other continents. My name is Ranjita Singh, and I am part of the Virtusa Life Sciences Client Services team. I thank you all for taking the time to be here in person, and for those who are joining virtually, thank you as well for joining us on this very special day. It is an honor to have this esteemed group of speakers with us today to join us in celebrating International Women's Day. To help us get started, I'm curious how you think International Women's Day is defined or how you think it should be thought of. Can I get, how about yourself? What do you think International Women's Day means to you or how it's defined?
I think it's an opportunity to celebrate women in the workforce and opportunity to raise awareness to get more women in the workforce.
Super, thank you. So I cheated a little bit and did some research to help me figure out what International Women's Day really means to me and help it define for myself. So the best way to summarize is it's a summary of what I found online. So here it goes. So this is a day that celebrates and honors the social, economic, cultural, and political impact and achievements of women around the world. As I was thinking about the day and what I wanted to say as I open up the session, I thought I would share some statistics about how women are doing in the workforce, how we're doing in STEM, et cetera, et cetera. But then I thought it would be more interesting to really look at and learn about where it all started. So how did this day to celebrate women start? So I'll take you through a brief timeline of the documented history of where International Women's Day started. In 1848, furious over women being barred from speaking at an anti-slavery convention, two ladies, Elizabeth Stanton and Lucretia Mott, they congregated a few hundred people at US's first Women's Rights Convention in New York, right here, New York City, and demanded civil, social, political, and religious rights for women. Fast forward to 1893. In New Zealand, women first became the first group of women to get universal women's suffrage. Then in 1908, a resolute group of women, garment workers, began a labor movement in New York again, where they protested against discrimination, sexual harassment, and demanded equal pay. The following year, in 1909, led by Socialist Party of America at that time, National Women's Day was celebrated in February here in the US. March 10th, 1910, a couple of years later, the idea of International Women's Day was proposed in Copenhagen at the International Conference of Working Women. 1911, women in 4 European countries also started protesting against discrimination and demanded equal rights. 1913, protests and demand for simple thing like bread by women in Russia ultimately led to the celebration of Women's Day as well as their right to vote. Now coming back to the US, in the 1970s in California, a group of women wanted to celebrate Women's History Month in the classroom. So activists pushed to make this week official. It didn't happen then. A few years later, in 1977, the UN officially recognized International Women's Day to create awareness about women's issues. Then in 1980, President Carter finally declared the second week in March as National Women's Day, Women's History Week, I apologize. And finally, in 1987, the US Congress declared March as National Women's Day. So that's a brief history and timeline of why we are here today. So I told you how this celebration of women started. So why does it matter? So what? The movements and demands for embracing diversity did not happen overnight, as you just heard. As nations and cultures have evolved, both men and women in all sectors of societies and business have realized the value of and working within the realm of diverse cultures, race, ethnicity, religion, lifestyle, gender, views, skill sets, special needs, communities, talents, opinions, and the list goes on. It matters to know how we have gotten here today so that we know how much more work lies ahead of us. The business challenges today are far more complex than those just 5 years ago, and of course, before that as well. Diversity in the workplace alone does not produce the desired incomes. Diversity combined with inclusion, today's or this month's theme, drives continuous innovation and permits variety in thoughts and ideas for a 360-degree view of the world, which then promotes more well-rounded solutions to the challenges. Diversity combined with inclusion leads to better products and services that cater to a wider group of people and customers. As organizations grow and serve customers and cultures across the globe, they realize the need to have more diverse leaders in the boardroom, in the CXO and management roles. Inclusion does not deny certain groups opportunities. Rather, it opens doors for diverse approaches and solutions to meet the strategic, business, and overall societal impact that organizations would like to make. Besides gender parity, there are many other forms of inequalities and basic rights that are still not available to many people across the globe. I am hopeful that we will continue to strive for and demand and enable access to these rights. I'm also hopeful that we will continue to build and nurture inclusive and supportive working environments so that our sons and daughters can thrive when they enter the workforce. Now, since I'm part of the Virtusa team here, I have to tell you a little bit about our view and how we're doing. As I was preparing today, I spoke to a couple of senior leaders from Virtusa. And one of the gentlemen nicely framed one of the key business reasons why we believe in diversity and inclusion. He said, diversity and inclusion help us future-proof our organization so it stays relevant to those it serves, our clients and partners, and also where we operate, the communities and nations where our people reside. Virtusa is committed to building more equitable communities by providing access to education and preserving our local ecosystems. We want our work to make a positive and sustainable difference adhering to 7 Ps: our people, planet, and purpose, anchored by a public and private partnership. Here are some quick facts on our female employees. The percentage of female employees increased from 29% in fiscal year 20 to 32% in fiscal year 23. Now that may sound low and it may sound like it's only an incremental increase. However, in terms of sheer numbers, it's a major accomplishment. So in terms of numbers, we went from about 6,600 female employees to more than 10,000 female employees. Drilling down a bit further, the percentage of females in management roles increased from 13% in fiscal year 20 to 16% in fiscal year 23. In fiscal year 20, we hired more than 7,000 new employees, of which 30% were females. So about a little more than 2,000 female employees. Fast forward 3 years, in fiscal year 23, we hired 11,000, a little more than 11,000 new employees, of which 32% were females, so 2% more. So about 3,500 female employees. Like many organizations, we've come far, and we will continue to strive for and invest in and put policies and practices in place for continued progress, because there is still a lot of work left to be done. With that, I'd like to thank you, and I'm thrilled to pass it to Madhuri, who will introduce herself and get the chat started. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjita. Thank you, Ranjita, for that wonderful introduction and telling us a lot more. I didn't do the research, so I didn't know all that much about Women's Day. So thank you for doing that and for also sharing what Virtusa is doing in the space. Hello, everybody in the room, and to the large audience that have joined us online from multiple locations across the globe. Hello, and welcome to Virtusa's celebration of International Women's Day. A very happy Women's Day to all of you. It makes me really happy to see that it's a very mixed crowd that we have here in the room, at least that I can see. So, happy Women's Day to all the women and all the men who support and ally with us to enable us and to help us achieve all that we have achieved. Thank you again for joining us as we gather today to not only talk about the achievements that women have had, but also the struggles and the challenges we face, and what we can do as teams that can come together and take decisive action to enable inclusion and to help fight all of the challenges that actually hamper women from achieving on their wishes, their dreams, and the heights that they can fly to. I am Madhuri Bhuyan at Virtusa. I lead global growth marketing, and besides that, I also manage to have fairly high satisfaction ratings with a 7-year-old little boy that I have at home. So yeah, so that's, I think, a big achievement. Today, it's my pleasure and great privilege to be able to facilitate a couple of conversations that we have scheduled with an extremely interesting, incredible group of women on our panels. Our panelists come from extremely diverse backgrounds, functions, roles, industries, and I'm sure that they'll bring all of that unique perspective that they have to the position and place of women, the progress of women, and the challenges that they see that women have in the workplace. So having said that, I'll turn it over to the panelists and ask them to introduce themselves and give us a little insight into their stories. So, Lena?
Sure. Yep. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for the people who are watching us online. I would just like to quickly introduce, I'm Leena Alimchandani, working at JP Morgan & Chase as an executive director. I was born and brought up in India, recently moved to the US just 6 months back. And I've worked into various domains, various companies as well. At home, I have a 10-year-old boy, and I love to spend time with him, playing different games with him, enjoy traveling. And for me, I think I would define that my life has been like always learning. Every day brings a different challenge, and every day brings a different opportunity to learn and grow in every aspect of the life. With this, I'll pass on to you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Lori Mullane. I actually just joined Virtusa this week as a new Chief People Officer. Prior to Virtusa, I actually was working with KPMG and their Human Capital Advisory practice, and I'm thrilled to be here with all of you today. Just similar themes. So between my husband and I, we have 4 teenagers at home. So not for the faint of heart, and I'm hoping I get the same satisfaction ratings that you do, Madhuri. But it's certainly a nice opportunity again to be here with all of you and learn from this panel as well. I think women supporting each other is a big piece of, I'm sure, what we'll be talking about here today. So I'll pass it on to you, Janine.
Thank you, Lori. Janine Kane, Vice President, Strategic Business Solutions with Reliance Standard Life. I've been with the company 26 glorious years, And I actually came over to technology from the business side. So my journey's been a little different, I think, than others. And I'm looking forward to talking to everybody.
I've
You
gone
would,
already.
yeah. So thank you, ladies, for those wonderful introductions, and thank you, Laurie, for stepping in at the end, literally at the last moment, because we had a little bit of logistics issues with people on the panel. So Laurie stepped in, and I think that will bring us, another perspective. So great to see. I, for one, am very impatient to see how this discussion goes and to hear all of you, and I'm sure the audience is too. So without further ado, let's get started on the discussion. The theme that we have for this roundtable is empowering women in technology and bridging the gender gap for a diverse future. So having said that, I'll jump into the first question to get the ball rolling on the discussion. So Lena, what do you think are the most significant barriers to women entering into and to progressing and advancing in the technology careers? And what do you think that organizations and leaders can do to enable them to surmount the barriers?
Sure, yeah. So what I would say is women have been facing a lot of challenges throughout the time that they want, they share that they want to become an engineer or they want to join technology. At home itself, probably there are times that, our parents, our surroundings, they feel like, is it the right career for you? And I know that now it has changed a lot, but at some point in time, definitely even that was a question asked in the beginning itself when we are even planning to look at that option of the career. But yeah, with that, once we kind of settle down, we decide and we say, this is the career we want to grow in technology, we see that, that is the first thing that we have to overcome. If at all we have to change the mindset. And then when we enter into the organization, at the beginning itself, we see that there are not tons of opportunities available. There are times wherein even if there are job postings, there are situations wherein even if women candidates apply, there are unconscious bias wherein a women candidate is always left behind from the applications because people have that mindset that if it's a woman, they will probably have a lot of things to juggle around. They might not be able to cope up with the travel, with the challenging work environment. So they kind of, that comes in. And then sometimes you lose on that opportunity, right? And even if you get through that, right, there are times in our midst career wherein we don't get the right path or right role model to see who can, become an ally or who can help us to look at what is that, you have to do in order to get into the senior leadership roles. Right? So these are and then even if you get there, it's always it's a never-ending situation wherein you always have to make sure to keep up, to put your points on the table. There are always times wherein people feel like, if it is coming from a woman, do we think that she has done enough to, prove herself? So it's always proving yourself every day. So I feel like, at least for me, how the career journey has been, it is 2 decades back. When I started, I felt like getting into IT was not difficult from me, from my surroundings perspective. My parents and everybody was very, very supportive to get me into this field. But after that, when I got into the industry, it was very, very difficult. There was a time when probably I was one in a team of 20. And it was very, very difficult because people used to feel like, is she has the right potential? Will she be able to do what we are trying to assign it to her? Will she be able to travel? Will she be able to cope up with the work pressure? Will she work overnight if needed, right? So there were different tons of questions, even though probably not everything came to me directly, but I could sense that there are a lot of doubts in the in the mindset of our colleagues, which went through. And probably to prove themselves, to continue to deliver, it took a lot amount of time to establish yourself, to build that trust, to build that to build that entire ecosystem around us, wherein people started to believe, yeah, you can do it, right? If somebody else can do it, then why we can't do it? So probably I felt like it was a difficult journey, but if I look back, I think now probably organizations are changing a lot. There is a huge huge emphasis in terms of having a diversity and inclusion community built it in the company, and there are people who are advocating for that. There are both, like from gender perspective, everybody is supportive to have the equal voice on the table, to have the equal opinion coming from everyone. So I feel like organizations today have actually already started a lot in terms of diversity and inclusion, but still, as we said, right, I think 35% is a very, very good percentage, I would say, because reaching 50% and saying equal will take some time, but I'm sure like we'll be there. And a lot of initiatives like having the right coaching programs, having the right re-entry programs for working women's, and probably providing the right leadership trainings, all the support ecosystem will go a long way, and I'm sure like we'll get there.
Thanks, Leena. And I think a very interesting point, and thanks for sharing your experience. A very interesting point you brought out is the fact that maybe the first barrier to entering is right at home. Very often that's, and I'd read somewhere that it's sometimes easier to cross the 7 seas than to cross the threshold of your house. And I just remember that when you said it, that that it starts so close to your life to actually get. So thank you for sharing that. To go a little further, moving from entering and progressing and advancing, talk about women in leadership, moving into leadership and lasting there and thriving there. So Laurie, how do you think that is as a journey, and what are the difficulties that women face there, and what could we do?
Yeah, good question and great answers, by the way. I think you'll hear some common themes here. I think it's important for girls to see role models, right? To see women that are paving the way and they can envision themselves in these roles and aspiring to those levels of leadership. So organizations like Girls Who Code, for example, are amazing in doing that and helping girls get hands-on opportunities. I think that over time, women, even in the workforce, start to see themselves as they can see others that have paved the way before them. So if I, look at myself, I've had some wonderful mentors and sponsors through my career who've helped me along the way understand and realize, yes, you can get there too. And it's important to have that. It's important to seek it out, right? Both mentors and sponsors, right? People who are going to advocate and support and back you up along the way. So I think all of those things are really important. I think organizations are getting more savvy at creating opportunities, making sure that there are diverse panels of candidates for open key roles, things like that, and showing up and making sure that there are good leadership development programs in place for women, things like that. So I think we're getting better. We're not quite there yet. Thrilled about the progress Virtusa is making, and certainly is an area that I am, personally passionate about and look to do more work with the team on.
Certainly makes me feel very good about you saying that. So thanks, Laurie. Janine, what has been your experience? What do you feel about it?
Okay, so again, I came from the business side, so my journey's been a little different, but I cheated and actually went and talked to a couple of our technology leaders, female technology leaders, and got their viewpoint on this question because I wanted to see, again, different for me. And a lot of what they talked about was role models, seeing people that, that represent females in technology that come from like a computer science background, an engineering background. And one of them said, and I found this really interesting. She goes, every time I walked into a room, the default assumption was I was from the business. That's very powerful to me. Like, if you're the only woman in the room and they're assuming you're from the business, right? And by the way, I came from the business, so I don't take that as a knock. But if I had a computer science degree and they constantly assumed that I was more on a BA side or a QA side, and I'm actually a developer and have the skills to do it, and people are assuming that I can't or I don't have those skills, that's a challenge that they have to overcome. So I think the role model. I also think the mentorship and, we really need to help lift each other up. This isn't a competition. This is, us helping each other and overcoming these barriers. And I think if we can, definitely make it more evident as well, like we're not hiding people in the back corner, right? Like actually come out in the front and, can talk the talk and walk the walk, then I think that's really going to help as well.
I think role models, both of you spoke about role models and mentorship and sponsorship. And I think that's a very interesting thing. And I've had some great mentors that have helped me get to where I am. I'll be forever grateful to them. So Ranjita, what's been your experience with mentorship and with networks, and has that helped you? How's that worked? And how do you think that helps, and what could we do to make more of that happen?
Absolutely. Mentors and networking, not just professionally, but also personally within my community, has helped me from the beginning of my career. Very early on, I had female managers for 3 years, and they were in senior roles. So I think now that I look back, I don't think I saw them as any different, whether it was a female or a male manager. My very first manager was a male, but then I had female managers a couple of years after that. I think that helped shape and gave me the confidence to continue striving to learn more. And I never thought of building a career. I was fortunate enough to have people who believed in me and gave me the opportunities when I wanted change, when I wanted to do something new. That's where, like you said, talking to peers. For me, I have to be completely honest. If I had to count how many mentors and people I've had professionally who have influenced my career, I've had more males help me and support me in my career than females. And I'm forever grateful for that. And that's why I don't think when it comes to mentorship or networking, we should be looking at whether someone is a male or a female. I think you should take advantage of who is in your circle and who can help you get to what you want to do. So I'd like to give an example. I landed in the IT consulting industry by mistake. I joke around with my kids because I started off in the financial services industry. Then I took some time off because I had kids, my son needed surgery, and at that time, that was for me the right thing to do. When I wanted to get back to a full-time role before doing a lot of working for many smaller organizations, I wanted to get back into a large organization because that's where I was before I had kids. It was somebody within my community, and he was a male who I had expressed my interest in what I wanted to do. He saw an opportunity in his company, and he made it happen. He introduced me to my, my manager at that time. So you should never look for or ignore any opportunities to find mentors or network. And there is networking opportunities, whether you're at a party or you're at a professional event. You never know who you'll meet and who you may help and who may help you in return. So it's been very meaningful for me. I don't proactively go out looking for mentors, but I've been lucky enough to find the right folks in my career. As far as what needs to be done more about mentorship, I think there is merit in having structured programs within organizations that build a forum or offer a forum for women to connect with each other and learn from each other. I'm a realist, and I don't say men and women are equal. I don't agree with that. We are different, and it's a good thing. We bring different values to the table. There is a different way women engage and talk to each other. The way men engage and talk to each other is different, and how we engage with men and how they engage with us, it's different. There's nothing wrong with that. But having a forum where you can speak to, like this, other women, learn from their experiences, there's a lot to be said about that. And I've been in companies where there isn't a structured program, and it's tough. Many women who don't feel confident, and especially those who are in early parts of their career, they don't know who to speak to. They don't have that confidence. I proactively try to help because I've been helped by others in my career so far. But if you have a structured program, it just makes it easier, and it makes the whole moving that 32% to 50% much easier. So Lori, we're looking at you.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Thanks. I'll move a little bit towards towards inclusion. After all, the theme for this entire year is inclusion, right? It's all about inclusion and all of that. So Janine, what's been your experience with what's worked? I mean, what are the strategies, policies, the approaches? I think more than policies, the approaches and the mindset that actually fosters inclusion. What have you seen working and what have you seen not working?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, last year was our inaugural year for our women's ERG at Reliance. It was our first ERG, and the company voted on what they wanted us to tackle as our first EIG, and it was the women's. So it's been interesting to me. I joined because I felt like I should. It wasn't something that was particularly close to my heart or anything like that. I just thought, okay, you know what, I'm a female leader, I should support this. And what I found was connecting with women, and we have varying levels. It's a very diverse group of women across the country. And what I've found is, as a Gen Xer who kind of had to, and I'm going to throw the generation out here because this is how some of us are, is like you just, whatever problems or challenges you had, you just sucked it up and dealt with it and moved on. You didn't talk about it. That was just part of your day-to-day, right? What I found by talking to all these amazing women was that we should be making an effort to help each other. Like, it gave me empathy to situations that I don't have in my own life. So without talking to people, understanding that, it definitely shifted my view on how we should be helping and supporting each other. It's not paying your dues if you have to go through the challenges. It's helping each other through those challenges now. No one should have to go through what we went through, 20, 30 years ago. Now it's their turn. And I think it's really made a difference because we're starting to talk about things like caretaking, with return to work, right? It's been an enormous challenge for a lot of our employees. Like, what do you do about your child care, your elder care, all the challenges that we all have in our lives? And, we're trying to really, really focus on providing that support. And I think, by doing so, even if you can't make a difference, but you can help people feel like they're valued and appreciated, and you empathize with their challenges, and if there's ways you can help them through it, then that's what we're going to do. And I really kind of feel like we're starting to see a difference in those conversations happening, and people are being a little bit more open about their challenges because they feel like they can be heard, right, and acknowledged. And it's vulnerable, but yet you're getting validation at the same time. And I think it's really important.
Yeah, and just to quickly add on to that, because something you said just struck a chord with me. We lost so many women in the workforce through COVID, right? And no offense to any of the men in the room or watching, but women went through that differently than men did in many cases in terms of just the amount of additional juggling that was required. And so I think you're right in terms of these types of forums and understanding you're not alone out there, right? There's other people going through the exact same things that you're going through, and having and creating a support network for yourself, whoever that is, colleagues in the workplace, friends personally, etc., and learning from what others are doing, and just empathizing with the situation, right? I wanted to just shout that out, right? Because it's been, I think everybody's kind of getting their feet back under them now, but what a very interesting couple of years, and especially for women, right?
I think everybody learned through that.
Yeah.
Everybody had a very, very different learning in terms of how to juggle between house and work at the same time, because you were kind of cooking and was also on the call,
Oh, yeah.
listening at the same
Oh, yeah.
time, right? So it was a good learning journey, I would say. Yeah.
Interesting is one way to put it.
It is.
But yeah, it was quite something. And thank you. I think it's absolutely wonderful insight. Um, and also the fact that you talked about mindset and what we've gone through, and the Gen X mindset, and how do we sort of change that. It made me think. It actually made me remember a teacher saying, "You get what you get, and you don't get upset."
Seriously, that's
Well, I will
Right.
get upset.
yeah, that's how I grew up.
I think, yeah. So that's. I
It's
think-
not fair. Too bad.
and it segues very well to how I thought we could sort of, and Lena, you started out in the beginning talking about the narrative, right? And what we face in terms of just the expectation and the mindset. So I thought we'd sort of bring it together to talk about what do we need to do to shift the narrative, and whether it is in the media or societal, in the corporate world, between our friends and networks that we work on. So what can we do to change that, to not only encourage more young women to take up technology or to take up careers, and but also to help those who are already in careers and are trying to struggling to advance through them, um, seem happy but could be happier.
Right.
We could make it easier. So what can we do there? And I thought, Lena, if you could
Yeah.
kick this off, and more of us can sort of talk through that.
Sure. So I think, see, media plays a very, very crucial role in terms of how somebody perceives or how somebody sees anything. I remember like a couple of years back, we used to always feel like when we imagine like probably a lot of women in technology, there were not lot many success stories out there in the media. There were not lot many, and just take examples of maybe movies. There was not female leading characters in the movies. We had a presence, but limited, right? So probably I think a lot of it through advertisements, through movies, through OTT channels, through our success stories published on LinkedIn and other social medias, it has actually changed the mindset, right? Now, if we talk about how do our kids see us as a working mother, they don't see it so difficult because they have seen other women's working out. They have working in the industries. They have seen other success stories. They have seen different characters being played by women. So I feel like media is actually playing a crucial role in shifting the mindset, right? When we talk about technology itself, there are a lot many women who are doing great in data and analytics, data science, AI, ML, and whatnot, right? And we ourselves probably have progressed through that. So what I feel is like media is actually a hotspot of awareness. If we project right. We can just talk freely, we can just share our journey in terms of what are the different challenges that we have faced, how we have come across, and if the if the way media takes it forward to a younger audience, they can actually relate to it, because a lot of young girls or women, they are actually facing this in terms of their daily lives today. They probably are not able to dream big because they feel like maybe it's not possible. But if they probably see some of the similar stories around, they actually would be able to relate to it, because it's like everybody has gone through some of the similar challenges at some point in time in their lives, right? So media can actually is actually doing a great job, and they should continue to do that. And this forum itself today, it's being live broadcasted, right? This itself is like so many people are watching out there, right? So it gives them a motivation. It gives them, it empowers them to dream big. And probably they are already powerful. It just gives more power to them, right? So I feel like this is a good shift in the narrative, and we can continue. Even each of us, right, should continue our way out to make sure that what we have done, we actually give it back to the community to make sure that they also kind of pick up something from this, and they continue to enhance their career journey and take more, participate more into the technology industry.
Thanks. What do you think, Ranjit?
So when I saw this question, I tried to think back, in my life. And one of the first things I thought about was growing up, I had aunts who were, I have 4 aunts from my mom's side. 3 of them are doctors. And that was a good role model for me. My mom used to work. She was a teacher, so that was another good role model. Growing up, through my aunts, I used to get access to Cosmopolitan and Glamour. I don't know if that's still in circulation.
I think Cosmo's online now.
Okay. So that used to come through them whenever they used to come over. They used to bring, obviously we didn't subscribe, but flipping through those, I remember seeing articles about, professional experience, advice columns, and I remember seeing pictures of women dressed in suits and high heels. And I think that I didn't know any professional women personally, but I think that image stayed with me. And I knew that I didn't know what I wanted to do career-wise when I was in grade school, but I knew I wanted to dress in suits and carry, at that time, you used to see briefcases and high-heel pumps. So I always had that in my mind. So you never know what part of media, society, or environments that you grow up in may help shape how you feel about yourself, what you're capable of, what you'd like to do when you grow up. The second thing that I thought of is when many times when I speak to younger women, or even girls, I have a daughter, when I speak to her, I get the sense that they measure themselves by comparing themselves to others. And sometimes it's men. My daughter compares herself to my son, who is better at math than she is, so she thinks. And sometimes to women. And it depends on the situation. I think the way I'm raising my girl is I tell her not to compare yourselves to anybody. It doesn't matter whether it's a male or a female. You think about what you want to do. Don't measure yourself according to others' KPIs or their standards, right? Set a set of measurements for yourself. What is it that you want to do? What do you need for it? Fortunately, you have parents who are there to support you and enable you. We're lucky to live in a society, in a country that supports, there are so many programs for whether it's a female or someone from a minority group. It's for you to take advantage of those programs. There are so many girls, I grew up in India first 10 years of my life, and we go back every year. Yes, things are not as bad in India and maybe other parts of the world where women are not so lucky. But if in this country you say you are not successful because of X, Y, and Z, and success means different for different reasons. We're talking professionally here. I find that hard to believe and accept. So I think we need to stop. We need to teach girls and put messages out there that you don't need to compare yourself. Don't measure yourself according to others. You set your own goals and figure out a path. Nobody has the same path. We've all gotten to where we are, and all of our paths are different.
Yeah, just taking up on that in a minute, for a minute, my 2 girls, I always tell them that if you're not out there making mistakes, you're not pushing hard enough. And it's okay to make a mistake because that's how you learn. And I feel like there's this element of perfection sometimes that's expected, both from a society perspective as well as from an individual perspective with girls growing up. And I think it is important, these key messages like you were just sharing about what you share with your daughter and certainly what I share with mine. I'm hoping some of these messages stick over time, right? That they remember that you don't need to be perfect, right? And I do think that the media is getting better with it as well. So I'm hoping that maybe the generation coming up experiences it perhaps maybe a bit different than than we did, and it gets it maybe a tad bit easier.
Very interesting point that both of you raised. And I think, just to add to that, I think it's also about what we tell our boys. I have a little boy only, I don't have a girl. And I'm trying to make sure that I tell him also things that make him feel that we are different but equal. And there's nothing that, that he cannot do, that is because girls do that. So he loves to cook. One of my colleagues here today said he loves pink. My boy loves pink. Okay, and some parts of my family don't like that he likes pink, but he loves pink. So I think it's also about, part of the narrative is also about how we bring up the boys. So that the generation that's coming up is different and can, see much more possibilities. Janine, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we need to be raising allies, right?
Yeah.
And I also feel like, I don't know about anybody else, but as a woman, you automatically, your self-esteem is not necessarily as high as you would like it, especially when you're younger, right? I think you have to, kind of mature into accepting who you are, what you're good at, what you're not good at. And that's okay too, right? But like even that whole imposter syndrome, right? Like, I don't know about anybody else, but I get something new assigned and I'm just like, oh God, I just don't even know what to do. And then I'm like, you know what? I'll figure it out. And so I Google it. I always start by Googling because Google is my friend. And then I'm like, oh, I get this. It's just called something different. And then then you start to build up your self-esteem. And then as you continue down that path, you start to feel like, okay, there's never been anything that I haven't been able to do. But you have to have that self-esteem. And I think a lot of that has to go with how do we build up our self-esteem in our children? And how do we, make women feel like, it's computer science. It's not that hard. Like, it's really not. And when I was talking to the technical leaders, that's one of the things she said when she was going into computer science. She said, everybody told me how hard it was. We need to stop that, right? Like, it's cool. Like, who else gets to work on all this cool stuff, right? Like, you never know what's going to walk in the door any day. And there's like lots of fun stuff. Like, I get my geek on. It is just awesome because there's so many neat things going on that you get to look at and work on. And like, I wish girls knew that when you work in IT and you work on projects, there's an enormous amount of satisfaction. Like when you can deliver something really good into production, right? Like, nothing feels better than that. Like, that's awesome. And there's a finite period of time, like it's not never ending. Well, some projects feel that way, but they're not. At some point they make it to production, and all my colleagues know, you know what I'm talking about. But realistically, I wish they could understand there's such a sense of satisfaction and fun that comes along with work in IT. Put the hours aside for a minute. Those are sometimes challenging, but it's really neat, and you get to work with global teams like we do.
Right.
Like, how cool is that? Any given day, I'm talking to people all over the world. To me, that's just amazing, and I wish girls would understand how much fun. It's not sitting in a corner, hunched over a laptop, and that's all you do. It's actually working and talking and having fun with it, right? And I think that's lost sometimes in the translation when you talk about, a career in technology. And there's so many different ways to do technology too. You don't actually have to be doing the code. You can be writing the requirements.
To add to your point, because I think you made a very good point. Yeah, it happens, right? Most of the time, like girls tend to, or it's not about girls, anybody who's in IT, from a women perspective, we tend to probably compare and see like, whether we'll be able to do it, should we apply, should we go ahead, should we do it? But I feel like the moment you decide, like, you be yourself and just believe in yourself, I think you should be able to do it.
Right.
So it's not something which is impossible.
No.
It's just that if the other person can make the way out, they'll also learn, right? So we can also learn. So it's like on the same side, right? Yeah.
Wow, I can't believe that we've gone through 30 minutes of this, and we could go on forever. But I'll wrap up our conversation and and offer up some of the fun that I've had asking questions to the audience. So if the audience has any questions for the panel, we can take about 2 or 3 questions before we need to wrap up. If we have any questions from the online audience, we can.
Apparently, we did an amazing job.
You did such an amazing
just
job.
saying.
You just answered
touched on
everything.
We
everything.
did.
That's
We
right.
covered
Nobody
it
has
all.
Any questions?
Nope.
Yeah, we should probably do a quiz. There's some question coming up.
Yeah.
So I see a few questions, and some of these are things we've already spoken about. Uh, what I think we spoke about inclusion, we spoke about mentoring. I think one of the questions that's interesting here is, what are the benefits of having a diverse and inclusive workforce in the technology industry? And how can we better communicate these benefits to stakeholders? I think the stakeholders part of it is interesting. So would any of you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I'll probably take that up. So, see, why it is different sometimes is like how you put how you handle the situation, because every person handles it differently. Just talk about maybe sometimes, you don't want to probably deliver a negative message, right? You were expecting a release very major, but somehow for some reason at the end, it's like, you just came to know about last minute that it's not going to happen. So I think probably everybody handles it differently. I feel like, as a woman, there are tons of these situations which comes at home, which you kind of, tackle at the last minute, and you still make your way out. And it may be, last minute falling short of any ingredient during the cooking, or probably your guest at home, and you handle it, right? So I feel like a lot of that plays a role in terms of how we actually handle that as well, because how we message that would be, like probably in a way that, yeah, it is the world is not the world is not ending, and probably, that's how we'll probably position it. And I think it plays an important role out there. Yeah.
I actually also have a little bit of a thought around that. And what I was thinking is that very often we speak about the fact that we should have diversity and we should have more women. Very rarely in groups that have women, very rarely do we actually bring it up, except that we've ticked that box. Very rarely do we bring it up saying that, you know what, my team is diverse. And this is what it does. When you have men and women together, this is what they bring together. And that's why my team is great. So I think more of that also would certainly help if people started looking at the teams like that and feeling happy that I'm very happy. I have a wonderful team which is very, very mixed. I mean, sometimes I actually have to worry that maybe I need to get a few more men in there. But yes, I think more people talking about it, and more men also talking about it, that I'm doing this for my teams, not because it's a checkbox, but because it actually helps, would certainly help. So very interesting question. So if we don't have any more questions from the room or from anybody online, I'd like to thank our panelists. Extremely engaging, very fun conversation. Thank you very much for being here. And thank you everybody for listening. We'll wrap this up, and we'll resume in a few minutes with our next panel.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm back again to introduce another exceptional panel, more women, actually more women than even the last panel. And this time this time it gets even more interesting because this time we're talking about, the theme is inner shoes, and there's some really nice shoes here. Inner shoes, personal stories of courage and resilience. Mine not so good, but personal stories of courage and resilience. As we talk about gender inequality, we talk about inclusion, I think one of the most important things is being able to understand what's happening with people, understand each other, empathize, and also to be able to really step into into the lives of people who are actually dealing with these challenges. And what's crucial, what becomes crucial then is to really know those stories, whether it's sharing across women or across larger forums, men and women, at home, at work. So the theme that we're trying to address here is how do we do that, and also to hear a few stories from the panelists that we have here. So again, without much ado, I will ask the panelists to introduce themselves. So Rohini.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rohini. I work for JP Morgan Chase. I head the quality and engineering services for JP Morgan Wealth Management. I live in New Jersey. I've been into US a couple of long time now. I have two beautiful daughters. We live two different lives, personal and professional. My whole personal life goes and runs around them. I love enjoying playing basketball, soccer, and beat any game, playing in the snow, just enjoying and having the fun with them. Over to you.
Thank you. Chris Parker. I lead our Microsoft Alliance here at Virtusa. I've been here for about 2 years, but I've been in the industry for about 10. Living here in New York City with my 13-year-old daughter, we're much like you. It is a different personal and professional life. Personally, I'm her Uber driver, her publicist, her personal chef, all of the things. But very excited to be here with these distinguished ladies.
Hi, I'm Trisha Riccio, Senior Director of Technology at A&E Television Networks. I lead a diverse group of business analysts who support our global content sales division, marketing, distribution, and our factual and scripted studios. Personally, I'm the mom of 3 kids. I have an older son, 21, and boy-girl twins that are 19, and it is a dynamic, interesting group. I would say you guys talked about COVID earlier. One of the benefits of COVID, and maybe the only benefit of COVID, my daughter got to watch me work from home, and I think it was an amazing experience for all of them to see what we do in our workforce, so it's fun.
Interesting perspective.
Yeah, I know. I know. Right?
I'm Sarah Steiger. I work for Microsoft. I've been here 26 years, so I've done a variety of things, but currently I lead our partner team that works with our largest systems integrators like Virtusa, and very happy to be here among this esteemed group of women. I have my husband and I have 2 college-age daughters, and one of whom is interested in the film industry, so I might have to talk to you later about that. See what we can do about internships, something along those lines. And yeah, very happy to be here.
Marnie Mayer. I'm with Allied World. I'm the global head of IT product for claims. I've been with my company for about 16 years. It's been a fun journey, and I look forward to the panel.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. So let's get started. Before we get started with actual stories, let's talk a little bit about why personal stories are crucial. I did a little blah blah job in the beginning as to why it's important. I'm sure all of you have a lot more to say. So Rohini, why do you think it's crucial, and especially crucial in the context of women in the workplace?
So I would start, like, personal stories definitely plays a very important role when you're sharing with the people, right? And you said especially for women, right? In the first panel, there's a lot of challenges which has been brought. Like, one challenge is being a single woman in the audience of 100 men. Another challenge is being a mother who's dealing with personal and professional, raising a small kid, having that thought in her mind, okay, am I doing this job better? Am I doing this job better? So there's a lot of different things. And to a certain extent, I would say, every human being, be it men or a woman, it doesn't make a difference. Everybody has a similar challenges, if not same, but similar. Everybody has to manage the kids. Everybody has a family. The biggest challenge comes in when you have a kid in a woman's life, where you think, shall I go ahead and take care of the baby? Do I have to spend more time with the baby? And then your professional self keeps talking, oh, I'm not doing justice to my work. I have to grow. If I don't do it now, probably I'll be laid back so much behind, and it's going to be very difficult to catch up. So it's not me or you or anybody. It's running in the head of every female. Every woman is juggling with this thought in the back of their head every day. So I'll take an example. Like, I have been here for the first time in 2005. I was a single woman in a crowd of like 40 men sitting there. And I asked one of my senior leaders who's been mentored, I said, you have to have ally. I asked her a very basic question, because she's also a very senior leadership person. It's like, how do you feel when you're a single woman in that room? She gave me a very beautiful answer. She said, Rohini, you have to think, you don't have to think that you are not one of them. Think you are one of them. When you believe you are one of them, you build that confidence in you. Think, why are you amongst them, standing in between them? You have something in you that brings you here. Another mentor said on one of my achievements, you should pat on your back that you have achieved something, and as and when you are able to achieve, you bring that value in. When you bring that, you cultivate that culture within the team itself. I have so many females reporting to me. Then how do you do that? I'm still struggling. I said, it's not you. It's everyone have the same struggle. You have to find the right support system. You have to find and prioritize few things in your own life if you want to do that. So there is no shortcut, and there is no one size fit all solution which I can give it. But if you can tell that stories to the people and bring your vulnerable self to them, they can relate with you at a deeper level. And when they can relate to you at a deeper level, they get inspired, motivated by your own stories. And I read it somewhere, sometimes it just needs somebody to hear you, or sometimes it just needs somebody to tell you the real story where you have faced something and that they can relate it. It gives a trigger, it acts as a catalyst in their life. And they can say, if she can do it, at least I can try to do it. If I succeed or not, that's secondary, because that doesn't come in your mind. You're still stuck whether I should do it or not. But if I share my stories, I give that confidence to the people. If I can do it, you can do it as well. So that's why I would say, if you share the personal stories and be vulnerable, but you cannot be vulnerable in front of everybody. So you are the best judge where you have to be vulnerable. And being a woman, right, you always think that I would be judged. I would be judged by these people. So when you have that thought, it becomes more difficult. So when you see somebody struggling in your team, when you are mentoring somebody, and when you feel that definitely you have to speak up so that it can motivate a person, I would say go ahead, don't think, be vulnerable, share your stories. It might motivate and make the best in somebody else's life.
What do you think, Mani?
I think sharing stories is really important so people don't feel alone. You know, they hear about someone else's experience, similar experience, hearing about someone's failure or success and thinking, you know, oh, they also went through that. I also think that sharing stories, especially for women, is so crucial on taboo topics, you know, where women are like, oh, I shouldn't talk about that at work. They shouldn't know that I'm thinking about this or I want to do that. And I think that, you know, making things more acceptable, like the societal comment, is really a big stepping stone for women, you know, and that there's a lot of topics that 10 years ago would never be discussed in a work environment. And now you see that more and more. And I think that sharing those experiences and stories makes, you know, people more comfortable. And it's funny, I actually sometimes, while you have pros and cons of every generation. The younger generation, they're so much more open to discussing everything, where I think that, you know, it's almost like teaching more corporate environments to be more open and be more accepting. And I think the more people step forward and share their own personal stories and their own personal experiences, it becomes like not so taboo. And, oh, that happened to them. And, you know, sharing personal experience of both positive and negative, I think, is a very good thing, because people can sit there and say, they must have never done anything wrong to get where they are in their life or their job. And it's like, well, no, everyone stumbles, has mistakes, learning experiences. And I think not only sharing like everything that you did right to get there, but also all of the challenges along the way. And it makes people very confident, you know, that, oh, maybe I can do it, you know, like what you were saying. And, you know, getting that more, I think for a long time it was work is work and personal is personal. And there's a blending of it, and COVID did a lot of that because everyone got an introduction to everyone's personal life. You saw kids, pets, partners, everything. And I think it made, you know, also for women in the workplace, like much more comfortable to see into the personal lives, not just of other women, but of the men who, maybe were doing it on their own as well, and different challenges, and really allowing like a commonality of people getting more comfortable and open to share those experiences.
So when you did your introduction, Chris, you also spoke about the personal. Rohini did too. You spoke about the personal and the professional, right? And you spoke about it right now, saying that how that's blended, and the stories help us do that. What do you feel?
I think the interesting thing about telling stories, it doesn't have to be a long 5-minute conversation. It can be what just happened right here. I'm at A&E. Oh, wait, my daughter wants to be interested. And then that's a story of commonality that doesn't happen unless we are in an environment where it's okay to bring your full self to work, to bring your full self into every situation. A long time ago, I heard someone say, people are the sum of their life experiences. And what you bring into the workforce, what you bring into your day-to-day, and being able to tell those stories and say, this is what shaped me, and I'm the person that you wanted here. Well, you've got to take all this other stuff that made me who I am, and you start making connections with people. I think it happens a lot during COVID. I also think it happens a lot when you're sitting down with the team for the first time. I remember when I first came here, I have a dog, a mini golden doodle, love him to death. And I met so many other people that have the same dog, and it was like, wait, what? We should have like a doodle dog club, and we can all show what our dogs are doing. But it brings this humanity into what can be a very busy day to day, but you could be, and it happens sometimes even still, we can be having the craziest day, and then someone on our team's chat will ping me a picture of their dog doing something silly. And it's like, it's those pieces of humanity and like those things that help you get through those days where it may be a tougher day. So I think don't confuse stories with you've got to have a 30-minute dialogue with someone. It can be a 45-second introduction where you're like, wait, we have something in common. Let's talk later and let's build on that. And relationships happen and business happens. So many other things happen that I think we have to be comfortable sharing enough of ourselves to help bring other people into us.
Thanks, and very insightful that the story doesn't have to be a long thing. It's just anything that creates a connect. And completely agree. I used to have this Jewish mentor, and I learned a lot from him. And one of the things he used to say is that if you want to really have a true connect with somebody, you've got to break bread together. And then again, it's about that. It's about relaxing and situations of safe spaces that enable you to do this. So having said that, let's jump into a story. So Tricia, you said you wanted to talk a little bit about share a story, and I thought, why don't we do that? Do you want to talk about any incident where you actually, because our theme is also courage and resilience, right? Any crucial, pivotal incidents where you had to bank upon your own courage and resilience, and how you dealt with them?
Very much so. So funny, I'm the youngest of 8 children, so resilience is built into me. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't that. But funny enough, in my family, I'm known for telling long stories, so bear with me. No, the story I want to tell about courage really actually started, it happened a long time ago when I was in university and I was doing an internship at a major corporation. And I was volunteering at an event for the university, their annual gala here in New York City. And the CEO of the company, I was doing the check-in, and the CEO of the company checked in, and I recognized him, so I stood up and introduced myself. And after our conversation, he said, so you're going to come work for us after you graduate? And I was like, no, there was not a job offer. So awkward conversation. And he was like, we're going to have to do something about that. And I'm like, oh, okay. But so fast forward a few days, a job offer landed on my desk. And unfortunately, though, I had to turn it down because I had already accepted another job offer, and it actually was a better offer at the other company. So I graciously declined it. A day or two later, I was sitting in my cubicle, and the CTO of the organization came up to my cubicle. He was a very large man. He was like 6'7". And I was a petite woman at the time. And he came and he approached my cubicle, towered over me, and basically what felt like berated me for not accepting the job that they had created specifically for me. And I was like, okay. The women that, after he left, the women I worked with came running to my desk and they're like, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I was shell-shocked. I called my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, And I told him what happened. And he said, well, you have to call the CEO and tell him. No, 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 that's not me. And we kept talking about it, and he kept pressing me. And I'm like, no. I'm like, but okay, well, how would I do that? What would I say? And I talked to the women I worked with. I practiced. There was like role play practically involved. And I got the courage to do it. And I called him and I explained, I thanked him. That was the how. I thanked him. I said, thank you. I know this job offer would not have come without our conversation. And he denied it, which was very nice of him. And I said, and I'd like to tell you about the conversation with your CTO. And his response on the phone was, he said, what? He did what? So it made me feel very validated. I don't know what happened afterwards. I left, the internship ended. But what I realized was, number one, it took me courage to introduce myself to the CEO at the event. It took the courage to make that phone call. And the transition, what I have realized over the years was the transition was not if I would make the phone call, but how. And I think that's where I've landed for the rest of my career, is not if I'm going to do something, it's how am I going to do it. So between my boyfriend at the time really pushing me, supporting me, so true ally. I mean, he was a little bit older than me and was already in the workforce, so that experience helped. The 3 women that I was working with at the time who came to my side, came to my aid, supported me, and then the mental transition of not if, but how. And so anytime anybody wants to tackle something, but that's mine, is okay, how am I gonna go about this? How are we gonna get it done? What needs to happen? And so that was my biggest life lesson really early on, and powerful. So I mean, I hope that helps.
I completely visualize this huge bear of a man running over you and literally spluttering in your face. Maybe that's what I visualize. But I loved not if but how. I think that's a learning / file save that I will keep. But moving on from courage and resilience in a pivotal incident to courage and resilience, or courage to actually make a difficult decision. So I'll invite you, Sarah, to talk a little bit about if you've had such an experience.
Yeah. I reflected on this, and I was thinking about some personal ones and some professional ones, and I would say, there's been a couple of times where I've had to make difficult professional decisions to do something, and I think similar to your story, right? The first is kind of like checking in first with yourself, and is the decision kind of aligned with your values, and is it something that you're comfortable with, or if it's not, and there's something that feels wrong, then kind of checking in and really seeking to kind of understand what that is. But for me, there were two times in my career where one time I was being encouraged to move in a different direction and take a job that I was not familiar with, not really comfortable with, but I was being coached to say, well, this is the next step you need, and you're rounding, and so on and so forth. And then another time was I was interested in moving to a different division of Microsoft. We had actually an advertising division at the time before it got sold off. And to me, it was interesting because I've always been interested in learning new things and trying new things, which I think is how you navigate a large corporation for as long as I have. And but it was something that I didn't know anything about. I didn't know anybody in the organization. Nobody knew me. And we were a group, company, as large as Virtusa and then some. And so, it really did feel like starting over if I was going to go do that. And so why would I leave my comfort zone of, where I had a brand, I had a reputation, and people knew me and respected me, and go kind of feel like I was starting over? And I would say for me, the things that helped me make the decision were, first of all, courage that I had learned, which kind of is something that I didn't really realize that I had, to look at myself and kind of say, okay, even though I've never done this before and I don't know anything about it, I have transferable skills, right? What are those things that you can do in a certain environment, a certain scenario, that can be transferred to other things? And I think, especially for women in technology, I always encourage people to just say yes, and you'll figure it out, right? Just say yes, and there are ways for you to think about what are the things that are transferable and what your experience has been that you can apply into this new place. And then also, I think, Chris, you mentioned it, what is it that got you here, right? There's a reason why you're in the room. There's a reason why you're being considered for a position or can be considered for a position. It's because you do have experience and you do have skills, and those things can be applied. So trying to gain some confidence from that, I think, is something that you need to learn how to do, and having allies, I think, as well, and supporters and mentors that you can go to that can kind of be a sounding board for you, but also remind you, right? Sometimes you need that reflection in the mirror of all of the things that you are good at, all the experiences that you do have, I think that can help you apply that. And then the other thing that I would say going forward, just because it hasn't been brought up yet, I'm a little surprised it hasn't, is I think AI is going to change everything. And specifically with respect to women in technology, I think it's going to change the perception as well as the nature of the role of being a computer scientist or an engineer. And all of the things that, for those who are in the field right now, no offense, but maybe more kind of mundane or rote in what people are doing now can become automated. And I think that also may change the perception of the role and make things more accessible, especially for women moving forward. And so again, for me, the lesson was kind of looking at what I was doing in one line for my entire career and thinking about what's transferable and what's applicable, and then being able to picture myself in doing that. And again, I think AI is going to change that and kind of open those doors for people as well to make that more accessible.
So you actually did add also to, not if, but how, because you talked about the same thing in a different context. And I think also agree to what you said about comfort zones. And I think especially with women, because there's so much challenge when you do find a comfort zone, it's even more difficult to push yourself out of there because there's a lot more than just the work. So very interesting. And thanks for bringing in AI. Yeah, that's something that somehow we haven't talked about at all.
That's a whole different panel.
It's a whole different few days.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of our AI experts had told me in between that what AI has done is it's brought us to a state where we are no longer thinking about what questions to ask, but how to ask the right questions. And coming back to women, I think women excel at asking questions and asking the right questions and asking them many times. So that's certainly a new facet coming in. So moving on a little bit to, we've talked about a difficult decision, a difficult situation. Let's talk a little bit about what we have what are resources or what are support systems? What are things that actually enable us to deal with adversity? So Chris, what's been your experience? What do you think helps, and have you had an experience that?
I think for me, every time I faced any adversity, I've always sought out other women. Always, no matter what, from whether it is a coworker, whether it is personal organizations like Chief, whether it is, I went to an HBCU, whether it's other people who went to a similar school, I've always sought out other women who I can learn things from and who I can share things with. Because I firmly believe that I'm not the only, I'm one of many, right? For, every LeBron, there is going to be a woman that is doing 10 times that's not getting the recognition that he is, right? So seeking out those women that are doing the things that you feel like, wait, I'm the only one that's doing this, that can't be right. So how do I find here in the organization? How do I find other Nadines? How do I find other people like Rachel who are in the area, and hey, maybe we can grab 30 minutes and just jump on a call and talk about what we're going through. Wait, how do I reach out to other women who are leading alliances, who are doing the same thing that I am? So I've always been very, very big on reaching out and finding other women that are either in roles that I am looking at or roles that I'm thinking about or roles that would be more senior than mine, to even people who, I hate using the word junior, but are more junior, because they have experiences and they can tell me things that sometimes we forget as we're building on things. And one thing that Janine said in the earlier panel that I firmly believe with women, we are not competing with each other. Nobody on this, we all are doing different things. Nobody's sitting here. We're not competing with each other. If anything, we're here because we want to motivate and inspire not only ourselves, but other women. And I think sometimes the narrative, we were talking about social media and things before, sometimes the narrative is, women are always going to be competing. We're not helping each other. I have found the opposite to be true 9 times out of 10. So, whenever I'm in an adverse situation, whenever I'm feeling like, hey, wait, I'm the only one that's going through this, I look back at my Rolodex, and I'm probably dating myself. I look through my phone and my contacts, and whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on my social media handles, there's going to be other women who I know I can go to and say, hey, I'm going through this. Does this seem weird to you? Have you dealt with something like this, and how did you do it, right? I think for women, it's so important to have that group. And even personally, my group chats with my friends are crazy because we all are in very different roles. I've got someone who leads an HR organization. I've got other people who are business administrators or chief of staff. And for us to all come together and be like, wait a minute, what happened to you? This is what's going on with work. So it's all of these different people that bring so much in, but being able to rely on other women to have these conversations and to do like a gut check or a mind check with, very similar to what you were able to do with your boyfriend. Like, being able to have those people that are going to be supporting you has been like fundamentally one of the best things that's happened to me. And being vulnerable enough to reach out to them is also something else. You don't always have to be like, I'm woman, hear me roar. Sometimes you want to be like, can we go back to the clubhouse and have a conversation about what's going on? So I think you've got to be able to have that, and it's helped me tremendously as I'm advancing my career and in my personal life as well. So I think that's something that, a good group of women around you is going to be fundamental as we move forward. And one thing about AI, there's a reason why Siri and Alexa are women, right? And I think there's a reason why. There is. Everyone's going to be asking women for the answers to their questions. That's my conspiracy theory.
Thanks, Chris. So we talked about people sharing stories. What about living a story? So Manya, I was thinking maybe we can talk a little bit, if you can talk a little bit about a situation where you actually got a chance to step into somebody else's shoes and see it from their perspective, and how that helps you grow, and what that brings to you.
Sure. I actually think this is something that a lot of people, more women maybe than men, do this on a daily basis. I think that that's a big part of, success, at least in the area of IT that I'm in, which is often stepping into someone else's shoes. How are my stakeholders going to view this? How is leadership going to view this? And adjusting yourself, because one of the things that I learned very on is no one's going to change for you. You have to figure out the room you're in, the audience you have, how to modify, as a woman, I tend to be more emotional. I'm more wordy when I write something up. I can talk for a long time, And you want to be able to like self-reflect and say, okay, how do I want to adjust myself for the audience that I'm going to be in? What are they wanting to hear? What is their experience, in the product world especially? That's my job on a daily basis. I'm always putting myself in someone else's shoes, the user's shoes, the stakeholder's shoes, my team's shoes. What are they needing? And being able to dynamically shift in the different environments. And I think that that's a very important skill, and a lot of women excel at that. Men do too, but I do think that sometimes when you are a bit more in touch with your emotions, no matter your gender, your age, anything, that can help you kind of be like, okay, that's how I would want to hear it. But let me think about this person's perspective. What do they need from me? What is most important to them? What is the message that they want to hear? Or, when you're working with someone to even help them, okay, they're doing this for a reason. How do I want to adjust? And, trial and error, drafting things, having a role play situation, and always thinking of, and I think of your example too, like, what is a CEO going to want to hear? He's not going to want to hear like an emotional, he hurt my feelings, blah, blah, blah. Like adjust, have that conversation with the dynamic of, okay, these are my peers, these are my mentors, these are people I can trust, I can have it here. Now let me think about, how do I want to, I need to go up the next level, I need to do this, and let me put myself in that person's shoes. They don't have a lot of time, they don't want to listen to people complain. What is the issue? How can I help? A mentor I had always said, never just come with a problem. Always come with the solution. Yep. And I think that solution and how you present your problem really depends on who you're talking to. So thinking of, a lot of times it's, processing it for yourself, doing that self-reflection, like what do you want to get from it? And then how do I adjust myself? So it's a very similar theme of, you know, being able to do that. And also sometimes maybe having to shift how you present yourself, right? Like, oh, this isn't really who I am, but this is who I need to put forward because that someone else's shoes, this is how they're going to hear me. And, you know, that's, I think, a very big thing that people lose sight of. And sometimes what you're also doing is helping someone else see that. Like, okay, I know you think that this is right and this is this, but I need to tell you what that person, like, you're trying, you know, and sometimes you have to play that middleman too of explaining to someone else, but this is their experience, this is what they want to hear, this is what I have to discuss, and even helping other people, you know, whether it be men, women, younger generation, older generation, being able to say, I hear you, but you need to think about someone else's shoes as well. So kind of like always keeping that in mind. And again, like in the product area, I think it's just part of the mindset is, well, I might not think that's great. They do. So how do I get them to hear that, like I hear you, they understand, but presenting alternatives or, you know, going in with that, it doesn't matter if they think it's my idea or not. Some people need to feel that it's their idea, and you know,
Yes,
you know,
to be effective.
Exactly,
Right, yeah.
exactly. So I think that, you know, especially in challenging situations, it's always good to take a pause, think about how you feel about the situation, but before reacting, be like, okay, how is that other side feeling? What are they thinking? And being able to adjust and have the right conversation rather than it kind of falling on deaf ears.
I think one thing that you said is so, so true when you were talking about approaching the CEO. You have to think when you're talking to anyone, what is it that you want them to walk away from the conversation
Yeah.
with?
Yeah.
You didn't want him to walk away that you were tattling on the
Yes.
CTO. You
Right.
wanted him to walk away with, I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm not able to accept it. Oh, and by the way, just as an FYI,
Yeah.
you may want to understand how that information or how my decision was perceived by a member of your leadership team.
Yeah.
So you're sharing the information, you're not tattling, but you also are saying, hey, this isn't right. And you might want to know this is the person that's representing you and your organization. If it wasn't me, if I was someone else, how would they perceive it?
Yeah.
So I think as women, sometimes we don't want to be the one because we don't want to be like, oh, I'm just gonna. No, sometimes it's good to give that feedback and give it in a way that's going to be received
Yes.
the way that you want the person to understand your messaging.
Know your audience.
Know your
know your
audience.
audience.
Know your audience.
And one thing to just add on to that also is when you think about that, don't let, well, a man would never say this, stop you.
Because they are saying it.
Yes. So, but it goes back to like, how do I say it where I get the right message across and it's not taken that way? Because I do think a lot of times women don't speak up because they're like, well, a man would never complain about that, whether it's a salary gap, an opportunity gap, someone mistreated someone in the workplace, you know, things like that. There are ways that you can approach all of these situations, but it's always think about the person you have to raise it to. What are they going to want to hear in order to hear what you have to say? How are you going to present it to make sure my message gets across, but I'm doing it in a way where they're actually going to do something about it potentially and not view it as just, oh, she's just complaining or she's too emotional. And sometimes it's terrible to say that, but it is sometimes you have to be like, okay, let me take a breath, or go to your network, go to your group and be like, I need to vent it out. And once you kind of get it out, and having that sounding board of like, how do I phrase this for this type of person to hear it so that they listen to me?
Yeah.
A lot of interesting points that came out of this. Thank you for everybody participating. So I'll bring it back to the last question, and just like the previous panel, it's a question which I think is interesting and would benefit from a lot of us chiming in with our opinions and our thought about it. So we talked about courage and resilience, and we talked about stories and all of that. And then Rohini, I'll let you start this because you started, and so we'll bring it back together, and then all of us can join in. What do you think actually, you know, courage and resilience is all about? What mindset actually brings this about? Is it innate? Is it something that you can develop? How do we get there?
Sure. So talking about courage, I think we have talked about a lot of examples. She brought an example that she took a courage to do something. So in some cases, I would say courage is innate. Some people are born with that. So they have no fear. They just go and do something without thinking plus and minuses. And it's not that if somebody is born with that, somebody cannot build the courage to do it. So I've read it somewhere, again, I'm quoting it. Courage is not the fear. It's not the absence of the fear. It's your willingness, your desire to take an action towards something. And when you make a decision that you want to take a step ahead and work towards it, you don't have to think whether you would succeed or you would fail. Because as a woman, you said, oh, if I do something, will I succeed, will I fail? What would happen? You have to start questioning yourself, so much self-doubt. So it's not about whether you get success or not. You have to think and change your mindset that it comes in that whether you succeed or fail, you are taking an action. You are building a courage which is going to be built over time. And in that journey, how much you have grown, how much you have learned, and you have built a complete different personality of where you started from. So I would say it is something which you can build, and it is something you have it. So it's a combination of both together. You know what your qualities are. You know where you want to improve yourselves, and that you are the best judge of yourself. So, these are the places I am born with it. These are the places I have to work towards to get it. Every woman had their own challenges. She brought some. But it's like every day we wear a different hat. All women are in black. More power to women. We wear a different hat, right? And every time we have to take a courage to go and do something else. I have 2 daughters at home, I would say, and both of them are completely different. One would just walk away without thinking anything, and she'll just do whatever she likes. So I would say she's more courageous. The older one is kind of a little shy, but when she sees, oh, she can do it, she's younger to me. She's 2 years younger to me, and they'll talk, and she'll come and talk to me. If she can do, why can't I? So she's creating an example for her, and that she do it. And that's where it's like, even if she does something in school, she comes back, oh, I did something. She's telling the personal stories which we're talking about, right? Even that connection can help somebody build that courage. So it's something you can build it, and with the mindset, that's where the mindset comes in. We talk about, oh, you should have a positive mindset. Oh, optimistic. It's not easy. People can talk about it, but it's a constant journey in your head. You have to keep working towards it. It's a choice which you make. Every day you will have 10 different things to handle, but you think in your head, it's a choice I make, whether I want to pick up the right thing or the right. What do you choose? You choose happiness or sadness. Everybody wants, I want happiness. So it's a choice which you make, that be it any situation, I accept the failure. I have an empathy for myself, because every time you fail, you feel so bad, okay? But you have to think, oh, I've learned so much in this. I've grown self. Look back, everybody, if I look back 10 years back where I was and where I am, there's definitely a huge change. I had a lot of different things which I think, okay, I was not a good speaker, I cannot talk, I cannot stand in front of 10 different people at the same time. But the more you expose yourself every time, you build a small resilience over time, and it'll make you grow. So it's a constant journey. You have to take courage in every step, and automatically you will build that resilience. You will be able to bounce back, and you would not realize, how did I do that? And when you do that, you set an examples to everybody around. And I would say if you have that mindset, you carry that mindset around. You carry that aura and energy wherever you walk in. You spread that positivity. So there's a quote from football coach. It said, what do you choose? What do you want? You want to be a drain, or you want to be a fountain? So it's up to you what you choose. I want to be a fountain. I want to spread positivity, courage, happiness around. I don't want to walk into the room and like everybody's sad, and I make more sad. If everybody's sad, with just my little energy, everybody can cheer up. And then the whole aura of that room will be completely different.
We are sort of running a little low on time, but let's spend a couple of minutes, because Sarah and Tricia, both of you shared stories of such courage and such interesting stories. So what would you like to add? We have about a minute each before I'm sure somebody will give me a cue to sort of start winding this up.
I think it was very well said, so I don't think much needs to be added. I guess from my perspective, agree with everything that you said. I think courage can be learned over time if you reflect back on all of the accomplishments that you've had and the experiences that you've had, including the failures, right? I would say for me, what I've learned is that to also couple all of that with empathy. The more that you can put yourself in someone else's shoes and have empathy for them, the more I think that gives you self-knowledge that then can teach you what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with. And so then you can make a little bit more informed choices about what direction you want to take, what decisions that you want to make.
I'll say quickly, mindset. Someone said to me recently, just expect to be the only woman in the room and get comfortable with it. It's not an expectation that I want to set, but it's true. And so just having that mindset, I think, is good. I think courage, similar to what Sarah Rahini said, was it's like a muscle. It's a trait. You go to the gym, you work out, you have to practice this. You have to practice your courage. There's going to be opportunities. No one has had a perfect career. No one's had, I mean, maybe 1%, whatever. But they're so rare. The rest of us have all experienced it. And we tend to learn from our mistakes or opportunities where you have to experience courage. So I would also say your mirror, your friends are your best friend, and social media is not.
Just want to leave everybody with one note. It's like, believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, you're already halfway through. You're already 50% done. It's another 50% which you have to do it. That takes courage.
That's a beautiful message, and I'll add to it from what Chris said, and I'll say, believe in your tribe, because I think this is a tribe of such wonderful, strong women who will enable you and who will be the wind beneath your wings as you fly. So I'll wrap up here, and I'll see if there are any questions that we have in the audience, either online or in the room here, that we can take up.
I have a question.
Yes.
Thank you all. This was an excellent discussion. I'm just curious. We talked a lot about how having a group of support women within your organization, maybe on your team in different organizations. How are your companies encouraging that? Are there women's clubs? Are there, how are your companies inspiring that and encouraging that?
If I may jump in, we have a women's ERG, but on top of that, there is an organization called WICT, Women in Cable and Television, and they offer a leadership, and all the women who have been through that leadership initiative are now mentors. So the program is called Spark, and so every year, X number of women get to be mentors to these women who have been through a leadership initiative specifically for women. So to me, those are two major areas where women can get involved. One you're nominated for, which when I was nominated, I was like, wow, it was like an awesome honor. But the women's ERG as well is just such an opportunity. So that was mine.
I'll just add to it. Chase has a lot of programs. I work for Chase, JP Morgan Chase. So Chase has a lot of programs for women. Women in IT, we have Women in Tech Force, there's Force for Good. There's so many different forums. You have BRG, you have ERGs. And I was also part of one of they have a lot of mentoring program where you can volunteer, as you said, and sometimes your manager can also nominate you for that. So I've been part of those mentorship where you get a chance to connect with a dedicated mentor for your own self. So it's like you have to come and step forward. As a woman, we have been saying that women doesn't come forward, they just doubt yourself, they just take extra time to come forward. You have to advocate yourself. Unless you ask for it, nobody would come and say that, okay, go for it, take it. Just like if you ask for it, I think there are so many programs which can help you, be it mentoring, be it soft skill, be it leadership skills. There's so many leadership skills program which we have it within the Chase as well. So which definitely empowers and gives you a platform where you can go and learn something. And also see so many women's around or female. It doesn't have to be women's. I see a lot of men allies as well, that they also come and join those leadership skills and those sessions too.
Yeah, I would say Microsoft has the same thing. We have the ERG, and we do similarly all of this leadership coaching and mentoring, and there's a ton of opportunities for women there, and some of them, yes, we can include our allies in that as well. Exactly. We also have a lot of events where we sponsor things like Girls Who Code is a big one, and DigiGirls as well. So trying to work in the community, and that's another opportunity for networking as well when we volunteer for those things, to be able to get together and look for future leaders, as well as just sharing across the network that you develop.
Hi, thank you for being here. So I just want to ask a question on behalf of my 4 sisters. I'm the only brother. So what do you guys think? I just want to touch taboo and sensitive topics like bromance, culture in the workplace, Mad Men kind of stuff, and just if you guys want to share personal stories or suggestions for the upcoming girls or getting into the corporate America.
So I'll add into that. I think being a member of Chief, if you're not familiar, it is an all-women executive organization that, you reference Mad Men and the Bro Code and those things. Chief is the polar opposite. It is a women's only organization. We all get together. We have a clubhouse. It's members only. And we get together, and it's lovely space, very Mad Men reminiscent. but it's a safe space. And I think since becoming a member and participating and going to the events and doing the things that they do, it changes your mind a little bit about the boys club, because the things that we do, we're not bashing men, we're not saying how bad they are, but what we are doing is we're talking, we're sharing examples. A lot of times we're conducting business, we're meeting other people, companies are coming together. So I think for me, the biggest shift since becoming a leader and participating in these leadership organizations and going to these meetings, it shifts your mindset once you're in the room. I think a lot of times people have this image of what it's like to be in the room, and there's a lot of assumptions made about what's happening. Yes, we have a good time. Yes, there's good food, there's great wine, all those things, but also the conversations that are had, the learnings that are had in that room is what helps shift the mindset of, man, it's just it's a boys club. Well, I'm a member of a girls club, and we do so much more than just negative things that people may have a perception of. So I think it's all about, one, what you make it if you are in the room, and then two, sharing what it's like as opposed to keeping it a secret, right? I think that will dispel a lot of myths of those things, because for me, I thought for a long time, they're going to the cigar bar and I'm not invited and it's gonna be like this. And it's not like that at all. I'll tell you, it's a really great experience for us to be together and elevate ourselves and elevate our businesses and talk about what we're doing. So I think the mindset shift is critical when you're thinking about those things.
But also elevate. If you see people that are
Yeah.
quiet, shy in the background, elevate them, bring them to the forefront, engage with them. That would be. I'd
No one's ever called me quiet or shy.
No, I don't. Me neither.
So I'll just add to what Lena brought it up. We are from India, so I would say that it starts from your home. So when you're upbringing the girls, right? In India, it's like whatever I know. In India, it's like, oh, girls can't do this. Oh, but baby, don't do this. It will hurt you. Why? And now we are talking. We have to have same rights, equal rights. Women are equal. It doesn't make. It's already ingrained in their head. They have been pampered. They have been raised. But actually, world is not out like that outside to you. Nobody's going to treat you as a separate girl. Oh, she's a girl. She has been raised with a very soft culture. No, nobody's going to treat it that way. I tell my girls, be who you are. Don't let somebody else play with your mindset. If you think you can, you should be able to do it. So it comes from the childhood. There can be many forums around, but changing that personality takes a lot of time. So I would say, and I think everybody has raised that they are telling their girls, believe in themselves, be an advocate for yourself, go, do it, try it. Until you try it, you would not know. I think she brought a very good point. If you're not failing, that means you're not trying enough. Fail. There's no simple way to learn. You have to fail to learn it. I was thinking, I'll give my very good comfort zone to my daughters. No, you can just safeguard them, but they have to step out in their own world, fail multiple times, get that experience, and then only they can learn it around.
So I'm very sorry to have to wrap it up. I think there are a couple of very interesting questions that have come in online, but we're running out of time, and I'm sure we could just sit here and talk, and it'd be nice to have coffee. But thank you, ladies, very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for the audience for listening and for participating. It's been wonderful talking. I'm going to hand this back over to Ranjita so that she can close out and she can. Thank you.
So to close off our session today, I'd like to reiterate that Virtusa continues to support initiatives and policies that encourage and promote gender equality in technology. And I'm happy to share that Virtusa will be donating the proceeds that we are raising by way of today's registrations to support the incredible work that Girls Who Code, I think somebody mentioned, Girls Who Code does. It's an organization that's dedicated to closing the gender gap in technology. So I'd like to thank everyone again for joining us today. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank the people behind today's session. Corporate marketing, Virtusa corporate marketing team, the BU marketing team, facilities team, and there are many others that I cannot name today. There are some in the room today. If you can quickly run and come up here. Raghu, Andrew, Azmi, Caroline, and Sonia. And of course, Madhuri. Thank you to this team. They are the people behind today's session. Thank you so much. Now we have, for all the panelists, we have networking and lunch outside for everybody. So please come join us. And we are also going to acknowledge everybody with a little token of appreciation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.